Hello children, welcome back to Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School channel. Now we are going to start with the new lesson, history subject, lesson number 9, the making of regional cultures. So region and regional are related to the cultures. So India is our country. We have different states with different languages, clothes, food, their clothing and their cultures. So let's learn about these all cultures, how India is associated. So open your textbook, page number 122, the making of regional cultures. Now here, how to associate people by their language, food, culture, clothing. Regional cultures are product of intermingling of traditions with ideas from other parts of the subcontinent. Now one of the commonest ways of describing people is in terms of the language they speak. If anyone speaks, means when you speak to a person, what language they speak, which is their language, by that you can identify that he is from which region. Okay. When we refer to a person as a Tamil or Oriya, this usually means that he or she speaks Tamil or Oriya and lives in Tamil Nadu or Orissa. We also tend to associate each region with distinctive kinds of food, clothes, poetry, dance, music and paintings. Sometimes we take these identities for granted and assume that they have existed from time immemorial. Okay. However, the frontiers separating regions have evolved over time and in fact are still changing. Also, what we understand as regional cultures today are often the product of complex processes of intermixing of local traditions with ideas from other parts of the subcontinent. As we will see, some traditions appear specific to some regions, others seem to be similar across regions, and yet others derive from older practices in a particular area but take a new form in other regions. Now we are going to learn how these are intermingling traditions, regional cultures, okay, with ideas from other parts. We describe people in terms of language they speak, and even what we are doing, some traditions appear specific to some regions and others seem to be similar across regions. So yet others derive from older practices in particular area. These take a new form of regions. Now we are going to learn about the Cheras and the development of Malayalam. Let us begin by looking at an example of the connection between language and region. The Chera kingdom of Mahodayapuram was established in the 9th century in the southwestern part of the peninsula, part of present day Kerala. It is likely that Malayalam was spoken in this area. The rulers introduced the Malayalam language and script in their inscriptions. In fact, this is one of the earliest examples of the use of regional language in official records in the subcontinent. Here we are learning about Kerala. So which language is used there? Malayalam. Okay. Now the rulers, they introduced Malayalam language in their scripts and their inscriptions also. So this is the example where the regional language is used in official records for the earliest example of first time in subcontinent. At the same time, the Cheras also drew upon Sanskritic traditions. The temple theatre of Kerala, which is traced to this period, borrowed stories from the Sanskrit epics. The first literary works in the Malayalam dated to about the 12th century are directly indebted to Sanskrit. Interestingly enough, a 14th century text, the Lalitakam, dealing with grammar and poetics, was composed in Manipravalam, literally diamonds and corals, referring to the two languages, Sanskrit and the regional language. Now at the same time, what was going on, the Cheras also drew some Sanskritic traditions, they drew upon Sanskritic traditions. The temple theatre of Kerala, which traced to the period, borrowed some of the stories they borrowed from Sanskrit epics. The first literary works in Malayalam dated to about 12th century are directly indebted to Sanskrit. In 14th century, what happened? Lalitalakam, dealing with grammar, poetics, was composed in Manipravalam, that means diamonds and corals. Now here, rulers, religious traditions, the Jagannath cult. What is cult? It is a group of people who have religions or set of beliefs. This is called cult. In other regions, regional cultures grew around religious traditions. The best example of this process is cult of Jagannath, literally Lord of the world, a name for Vishnu at Puri, Orissa. To date, the local tribal people make the wooden image of the deity, which suggests that the deity was originally a local god who was later identified with Vishnu. Okay, they make the idol image with wood of their deity, and which suggests that deity was originally their local god. In the 12th century, one of the most important rulers of the Ganga dynasty, Anantavarman, decided to erect a temple for Purushottama Jagannatha at Puri. Subsequently, in 1230, King Anangabhima dedicated his kingdom to the deity and proclaimed himself as a deputy of God. So, in 12th century, what one of the most rulers of Ganga dynasty, what they did, Anantavarman, he decided to erect a temple for Purushottama Jagannatha at Puri. And Anangabhima, he dedicated his kingdom to the deity and proclaimed himself to be as the deputy of God. Okay, here you can see the making of regional cultures. Here see icons of some of the Balabhadra, Subhadra and Jagannatha. Palm manuscript, which is in Orissa. As the temple gained an importance as a center of pilgrimage, its authority in social and political matters also increased. Now, this temple, when it got the importance, means pilgrims started visiting, its authority in social and political matters also increased. All those who conquered Orissa, such as Mughals, the Marathas and the English East India Company, attempted to gain control over the temple. They felt that this would make their rule acceptable to local people. Because of its importance, now these rulers, they make their rule and they felt that this would make accept to the local people. The Rajputs and the traditions of heroism. Jagannath temple in Puri. This is the picture. Okay. Now the Rajputs and the traditions of heroism. In 19th century, the region that constitutes most of present day Rajasthan was called Rajputana by British. While this may suggest that this was an area that was inhabited only or mainly by Rajputs, this is only partly true. There were several groups who identified themselves as Rajputs in many areas of northern and central India. And of course, there are several people other than Rajputs who live in Rajasthan. However, the Rajputs are often recognized as contributing to the distinctive culture of Rajasthan. So, here that in Rajasthan, it was thought that only Rajputs, in the many areas only Rajputs were living, but that was not true, and several other peoples other than Rajputs, they used to live in Rajasthan. The culture traditions were closely linked with the ideals and aspirations of rulers. Okay. From about the 8th century, most of the present day state of Rajasthan was ruled by various Rajput families. Prithviraj, chapter 2 we learnt, was one such ruler. These rulers cherished the ideal of the hero who fought valiantly, often choosing death, okay, rather than defeat. So, they were not like they don't want to get defeated, they were choosing to death. They want to die, but they don't want to get defeated. So, on the battlefield rather than face defeat. Stories about Rajput heroes were recorded in poems and songs which were recited by specially trained minstrels. These preserved the memories of the heroes and were expected to inspire others to follow their example. So, these Rajput heroes, whatever the deeds were there, they were recorded in the poems and songs which were recited by the specially trained minstrels. These preserved the memories of heroes who were expected to inspire others. So, this they would get, others would get the inspiration by their deeds and follow their example. The bravery of these heroes, Rajput heroes. Ordinary people were also attracted by these stories which often depicted dramatic situations and range of strong emotions, loyalty, friendship, love, valor, anger, etc. So, even the ordinary people, they were attracted by the stories which were the range of strong emotions like loyalty, friendship, love, valor, anger. Okay. Did women find a place within these stories? Sometimes they figure the cause or conflicts as men fought with one another to either win or protect women. Women are also depicted as following their heroic husbands in both life and death. There are stories about the practice of sati or immolation of widows on funeral pyre of their husbands. Okay. So, here they are asking whether women find a place in the stories. Yes, they figure as a cause or conflicts as men fought with one another, and either they used to win or protect their women. Women also depicted their heroic husbands in both life and death. They used to participate in their life and death, and there are stories about the practice of sati. What is sati? Now, it is a sacrifice. The when husband was dead, when funeral pyre was set, in that the women used to sit and burn herself. So, that is sati system. So, those who followed the heroic ideal often had to pay for it with their lives also. Beyond regional frontiers, the story of Kathak. If heroic traditions can be found in different regions in different forms, the same is true of dance. Now we are going to move towards dances, cultures. Let us look at the history of one dance form, Kathak, now associated with several parts of North India. The term Kathak is derived from Katha, or word used in Sanskrit and other languages for story. Katha means story. The Kathaks were originally a caste of storytellers in temples of North India who embellished their performance with gestures and songs. Now Kathak means it originated from the word Katha, which is known as a story. Now here these Kathaks were originally from the caste of storytellers in the temples of North India, who make attractive performances with their gestures and songs. Embellished means they are making attractive. Kathak began evolving into a distinct mode of dance in the 15th and 16th centuries with spread of Bhakti movement. The legends of Radha Krishna were enacted in folk plays called Rasalila, which combined folk dance with the basic gestures of Kathak storytellers. So in this way performing Kathak, they used to play the folk songs, they used to dance, folk dance, and even the gestures they used to give, which were the legends of Radha Krishna. Okay. Under the Mughal emperors and their nobles, Kathak was performed in the court, where it acquired its present features and developed into a form of dance with a distinctive style. Subsequently, it developed into the two traditions, gharanas, one in the courts of Rajasthan and other in Lucknow. Under the patronage of Wajid Ali Shah, the last Nawab of Awadh, it grew into major art form. By the third quarter of 19th century, it was firmly entrenched as a dance form, not only these two regions, but in the adjoining areas of present day Punjab, Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, Bihar and Madhya Pradesh, emphasizes and was laid on intricate rapid footwork, elaborate customs, as well as on the enactment of stories. Now here under Mughal emperors and their nobles, Kathak was performed in the courts, where it acquired present features and developed into a form of dance with distinctive style. So now it developed in two traditions or gharanas, one in the court of Rajasthan and other in Lucknow. Okay. The last Nawab of Awadh, it grew into major art form. By third quarter of 19th century, what happened? It entrenched as a dance form not only in these two regions, but also in some neighboring areas, adjoining areas like Punjab, Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, Bihar. Okay. Kathak, like several other cultural practices, was viewed with disfavor by most British administrators in 19th and 12th centuries. However, it survived and continued to be performed by courtesans and was recognized as one of 6 classical forms of dance in country after independence. Now these British administrators, they were disfavoring, and however it survived and it continued to be performed. Okay. And afterwards it was recognized as one of 6 classical forms of dances. Now classical dances, here you can read it. See, other dance forms that are recognized as classical at present are Bharatanatyam in Tamil Nadu, Kathakali in Kerala, Odissi in Odisha, Kuchipudi in Andhra Pradesh and Manipuri in Manipur. Paintings for patrons, the tradition of miniatures. Another tradition that was developed in different ways was that of miniature paintings. Miniatures, as their very name suggests, are small. Miniatures means very small size, generally done in watercolor or cloth or paper. The earliest miniatures were on palm leaves or wood. Some of the most beautiful of these found in Western India were used to illustrate Jaina text. The Mughal emperors Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan patronized highly skilled painters who primarily illustrated manuscripts containing historical accounts and poetry. These were generally painted in brilliant colors and portrayed court scenes, scenes of battle or hunting, and other aspects of social life. They were often exchanged as gifts and were viewed only by an exclusive few, the emperor and his close associates. Now, Akbar resting during the hunt, Mughal miniature. Now, you can see here this painting. Most of these paintings, they used to illustrate, like they used to show, it was put like some hunting. See, they were portrayed the scenes, court scenes, scenes of battle also, or hunting and other aspects also, and they were often exchanged like gifts. They used to give one another. With the decline of Mughal emperor, many painters moved out to the courts of the emerging regional states. As a result, Mughal artistic tastes influenced the regional courts of the Deccan and Rajput courts of the Rajasthan. At the same time, they retained and developed their distinctive characteristics. Portraits of rulers and court scenes came to be painted following the Mughal example. Besides, themes from mythology and poetry were depicted at centers such as Mewar, Jodhpur, Bundi, Kota, and this is Kishangarh it is. Okay. With the, now what happened, as the Mughal power declined, many painters they moved to the emerging regional states, and now as a result what happened, the Mughal artistic taste influenced and the regional courts of the Deccan and Rajput courts of Rajasthan. At the same time, they retained and developed their distinctive characteristics. Now, you can see the portraits of rulers and court scenes came to be painted. Now, they started to paint the scenes of the courts. Okay. Another region that attracted miniature paintings was the Himalayan foothills around the modern day state Himachal Pradesh. By the late 17th century, this region had developed a bold and intense style of miniature paintings called basoli. The most popular text to be painted here was Bhanudatta's Rasmanjari. Nadir Shah's invasion and conquest of Delhi in 1739 resulted in migration of Mughal artists to the hills to escape the uncertainties of the plains. Now by 17th century what happened, this region had developed a bold and intense style of miniature paintings called basoli. The most popular text to be painted here was what it is? Banu Datta's Rasmanjari, and Nadir Shah's invasion and conquest of Delhi in 1739. Here you can see. Okay. Now we will go to next part. Here the painting Krishna Radha and her companion Pahari miniature Kangra. You can see the painting beautifully, with beautiful colors it is painted. They found ready patrons which led to the founding of Kangra school of painting. By the mid 18th century, the Kangra artists developed a style which breathed a new script into miniature painting. The source of inscription was the Vaishnavite traditions. Soft colors including cool blues and greens and lyrical treatment of themes distinguished Kangra painting. Now we saw the previous painting, so their soft colors, cool blues and greens and lyrical treatment of themes was introduced. Remember that ordinary women and men painted as well on pots, walls, floors, cloth, works of art that have occasionally survived, unlike the miniatures that were carefully preserved in palaces for centuries. Okay, now ordinary men and women also started to paint on pots, walls, floors, on their clothes. Now we will go to closer look to Bengal. The growth of regional language. As we saw the outset, we often tend to identify regions in terms of the language spoken by people. So we assume that people in Bengal always spoke Bengali. However, what is interesting is that while Bengali is now recognized as a language derived from Sanskrit, early Sanskrit text mid first millennium suggests that the people of Bengal did not speak Sanskritic languages. How then did the new language emerge? Now we went to now Bengal, where Bengali is spoken, the language, and it is said that it is derived from Sanskrit, early Sanskrit texts, and suggests that people of Bengal did not speak Sanskritic language. Then how it is emerged, how this language emerged. Okay, from the 4th, 3rd centuries, commercial ties began to develop between Bengal and Magda, that is South Bihar, which may have to lead to the growing influence of Sanskrit. During the 4th century, the Gupta rulers established political control over North Bengal and began to settle Brahmanas in the areas. Thus, the linguistic and cultural influence from the mid-Ganga valley became stronger. In the 7th century, the Chinese traveller Xunzang observed that languages related to Sanskrit were in use in all over Bengal. So, in this way we learnt how the Bengal language. So, we have read the lesson till page number 131, first paragraph we read. So, we are going to continue with the same lesson in the next session. So, whatever the lesson we have completed, read the lesson. Till then, take care, bye.